Hi everybody, welcome to Gamble Facebook Live today. My name is Heather Cartwright and I run Highland Gamble. We're the Gamble dealer for Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho. Very excited to be here today to show you one of my favorite techniques that I do with my Gamble, and that is raw edge applique. You can do this with your hand-guided machine, you can do it with your Elevate or a Statler. Today I'm going to demonstrate it on the Statler. So, I have had many opportunities to practice this technique as I have been called upon to make many a raffle quilt as my kids participate in lots of different sports. And of course, owning a quilt shop and being a quilter, I was asked to donate many quilts for raffle and auction. I spent hours and hours piecing quilts at first and then thought, this is crazy. I had a better solution. So this is just a quilt made with Minky on both sides, whole cloth, bound with Minky. It's entirely Minky, even the applique part. And it's super soft, super squishy. Every time people feel it at a football game when they're trying to sell tickets or whatever, they automatically just fall in love with it. So it takes me very little time and is a great solution. So this is my go-to. And today I'm going to show you how to do these letters with Minky without tracing anything onto any medium or ironing anything on in advance, and you are gonna love it. So let's get started. I have loaded on my Statler 2 layers of Minky. I cut 2 yards of each, and I used a Hobbs poly down in between. I love the Hobbs poly down because it's a very nicely bonded, super soft polyester batting. Polyester, I feel like, gets a bad rap sometimes. The polyester of my childhood, the polyester double knit jumpsuits, that's what I used to think of when I thought of polyester. However, Minky is made entirely of polyester. So polyester's changed a lot over the years, and I love to use the poly with it because neither of them shrink. So as you wash the quilt and use it, it stays nice and soft and fluffy. And everyone loves the comfort of a soft, fluffy quilt. So it's a wonderful product. I use it a lot with flannel as well. I've loaded this onto my machine. Now, if you don't work with Minky a lot, there's a couple of tips that I have learned. I like to pin Minky on or attach it to my leader the stretchy way, because then I have less stretch when I roll the quilt. You know that if you stretch a quilt on the machine and then quilt it, when you take it off, it's going to unstretch. So you're not going to get a very good result. I like to mark my leaders. If I'm using a lot of Minky, I've marked my leaders 30 inches out from the center, so I know when I'm pinning it on if I'm stretching it or not. That way I get a nice end result. But don't be afraid of Minky. Minky is a wonderful backing to use. It's very forgiving, and everybody loves it. I love how the quilting patterns really pop out in the Minky as well. So I have advanced this quilt so that the center of my Minky is right here in my workspace. And I've cut about a 10-inch strip of white Minky that I'm going to lay just above that center line. This is how I roll. No measuring. Make this process as simple as I possibly can. So I've laid that out there. Then I come over to my screen. Now this is where you would free motion some block letters if you have a hand-guided machine. I've typed in alpha in the search under patterns, and it brought up my block alphabet. And now I'm going to draw a boundary. So I'll click draw boundary, and I'm going to tell the screen where this piece of white Minky that I just laid out is located. So I'm going to mark all 4 corners of this Minky. Notice I'm not even pinning it down. That's how efficient. Some people call it lazy. I call it efficient. That I've become with this technique. Close my drawing. Here is my border. As you can see, it's not very straight, but I will make it straight when I add the letters. And now from here, it's just click and drag. I exit my drawing, and I can click and drag my block lettering into my boundary. Now, it's a little bit bigger than my boundary, which is fine because once I get all the letters in there, I can resize it all at once. But I'm making sure to line up the bottom on the grid, not necessarily on my boundary because my boundary isn't so straight, but on the grid. So I'm just going to choose these letters, drop them onto my canvas here. And ta-da. Now I'm going to highlight the whole thing, shrink it down a bit so it's going to fit nicely within my white Minky, and just plop it in the center of my boundary. Ta-da. Now there's another way that you can do this by using a new CS7 feature, using alphabet fonts that are within Microsoft. So you can go up here to draw, just draw a line on the CAD or on your quilt. Close drawing. I'm going to highlight, exit drawing and highlight this line. And I'm going to come up here to draw text. This is going to open a box where I can choose what type of text I want. And I'm just going to type in here, in all caps, Huskies, because we are the Emmett Huskies. And it's calculating it for me, and okay. Now it's important to know I want to delete this line because I don't want it to quilt. And then I can take that and I can position it however I like underneath. Now since I've done so many of these quilts, I have it set up with a cursive font here, so I can just save it and just pull it up, and it's easy as pie. So we're going to go ahead and stitch out the E, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to trim around it after it has been stitched. So bring the head down here, and if you see your crosshairs on the screen, you can make sure that we are well within the range of our white. Looks like this is in red, which means it thinks it's already been sewn. So I'm going to highlight the whole thing. I'm going to right click and toggle group unsewn. You'll notice that it turned black. That means it's ready to quilt. And we're going to hit start quilting. So I'll pull up my thread, my bobbin thread, and hit go. A little bit of support. If I pinned this down, I probably wouldn't have to do this, but I kind of like to sometimes apply a little bit of back pressure if it's trying to push the Minky forward as a quilt. And my tie-off stitches. Now I have my Statler set to stop between jump stitches so that I can pull up my thread. And my favorite way to do that is to just move the machine up a little bit, hook my finger around the top thread, take a single stitch, push the wrong button, pull the bobbin thread up, give it a little tug, and snip it right off. All right, then if I press next, it would advance to the next letter. But I want to show you how easy it is to trim around these letters once you get them quilted. I have a pair of blunt tip gingers that I've had for almost 15 years now. I love to use them for quilting because there's almost zero chance that I'm going to puncture a customer's quilt. And they work wonderfully for this. And I just take those little blunt scissors and I trim right along the edge. And I mean probably a scant eighth is what it ends up being around this letter. You can do it from this way too. Kind of pull it up and trim along the bottom. You can even wait until you are all done and take it off the quilt and trim around it. But Minky, like I said, very forgiving. And once you clean up the Care Bear knife fight that happened here, you have a nice finished edge, and simple as that. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this. This is just one way I wanted to share with you today. But thank you so much for joining us, and I hope that you are all staying safe and healthy out there. Are there any questions? If there are any questions, we're happy to answer them. Afterwards, we'll go in and read your questions and give you all some answers. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
One question that's out there is I noticed that you are using the spoon foot on the machine. Is the spoon foot necessary when quilting applique?
It is not necessary. I like the spoon foot when I don't pin down the Minky because it tends to not push the fabric quite as much as the other feet. So it's just kind of smooth over the loose Minky on top. So that's why I like to use the spoon foot. Any other questions out there? All right, everybody have a great weekend. Thank you so much.